Hi, I'm Edna. My sister once stood in front of our whole family and called me a disgrace, at a party meant to celebrate family values. But what none of them expected was that her fiancé would greet me with two words that changed everything: Your Honor. It wasn't just one insult that night. It was years of betrayal, quiet erasure, the way they tried to erase my worth when no one was looking. How did it come to this? And why was the truth so much heavier than the lies? Morning light poured through the thin curtains of my small home office in Charleston, South Carolina, casting a muted glow over stacks of court briefs and unopened mail. The air was crisp for early fall, a rare relief from the lingering southern heat. As I sifted through the morning's clutter, my fingers paused on a cream-colored envelope nestled between bills and judicial notices. It wasn't the thickness of the paper that made my hand tremble. It was the embossed crest of the Voss family, so familiar yet so foreign now. The past clawed its way to the surface, scraping against old scars I'd buried under years of self-built dignity. I sat down heavily at my worn oak desk, staring at the envelope like it might explode. My thumb traced the elegant calligraphy spelling out my full name, Edna Marie Voss. Like I was still one of them. Like I hadn't been cast out, labeled a disgrace, a failure, an embarrassment to a family obsessed with maintaining a public facade. It took longer than it should have to slide a letter opener beneath the flap. Inside was a formal, sterile invitation to Claudine's wedding. My sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Beneath the thick cardstock, something fluttered out, a smaller slip of paper in rushed handwriting. Please come, I miss you. Mom. For a moment, the breath left my body entirely. It wasn't the invitation that undid me. It was that note, that tiny, desperate plea from the woman who had once stood silent while my father disowned me at a crowded family dinner. The same mother who'd never called, never written, until now. I pressed the note against my chest, squeezing my eyes shut. Memories bled in, my father's cold, clipped voice. You are no daughter of mine if you won't uphold the Voss legacy. Claudine's mocking laugh, cutting across the silence like a blade. You're pathetic, Edna. Always have been. I shook my head sharply, forcing the past back into its coffin. It wasn't that easy anymore. I wasn't that broken girl trembling at the family table. Not after building a life they swore I'd never have. Hours blurred together. I sat at the kitchen table, invitation and note side by side, turning them over like they might reveal some hidden answer. Pride warred with a strange, aching longing. Did I even want to be seen by them again? Did I need their validation after all I'd accomplished without them? By late afternoon, the sky over Charleston bruised with streaks of purple and gold. The streets buzzed with weekend tourists, but my world stayed eerily still. I watched the sunlight fade, and still the invitation remained unopened on the table, daring me to make a choice. The logical part of me screamed to ignore it. Let them stew in their curated perfection without me. But another part, the small, stubborn voice that had carried me through law school nights alone, had seen me through empty Thanksgivings, whispered otherwise. At midnight, I grabbed my jacket and slipped outside. The streets were nearly empty now, washed clean by the faint mist rolling in from the harbor. I walked with no destination, hands jammed deep into my pockets, heart beating an erratic drum against my ribs. Charleston slept, unaware that in one small corner, a war waged. Pride told me to stay away. Integrity told me it didn't matter what they thought. But somewhere deeper, something raw demanded a reckoning, not for them, for me. I stopped under the dull glow of a street lamp and pulled out my phone. The RSVP email stared back at me, waiting. Are you attending? It asked simply. I hovered for a moment, breath misting in the cold night air. Then, with a small, steady nod, I typed, I'll be there. My thumb hit send before I could second-guess myself. The message whooshed into the darkness. No fireworks exploded, no cosmic shift rumbled the earth beneath my feet. Just the quiet, resolute knowledge that there was no turning back now. I pocketed my phone, turned toward home, and took my first step into the storm I knew was waiting. The Charleston night had barely melted into dawn when I woke with a strange clarity buzzing beneath my skin. I'd crossed a threshold the night before, one I couldn't uncross. My bags were already packed before the sun kissed the tips of the palmettos outside my window. No grand ritual, no dramatic pause, just a steady hand zipping up a modest suitcase, courtroom-appropriate attire neatly folded within. A few hours later, my rental car crunched along the winding gravel driveway of the Voss estate. The house loomed ahead like some sleeping giant, elegant, immaculate, and colder than memory allowed. I parked near the edge of the vast manicured lawn, away from the glittering luxury vehicles lined up like peacocks flashing their wealth. Stepping out, I smoothed the front of my deep green dress, a simple but precise choice. No sequins, no plunging neckline, just confidence stitched into clean lines and sharp tailoring. If I was walking into a battle, I would do it armored in my own skin, not their expectations. The late afternoon sun slanted golden across the estate grounds, setting the sprawling tents and floral arches ablaze with light. From a distance, laughter chimed like false bells. Politicians in tailored suits, lawyers with manicured smiles, socialites draped in designer silks, they all milled about, clinking glasses, posing for invisible cameras. I walked forward, head high, refusing to let the weight of their stares slow me down. No one approached me at first. No one dared. And then, across the glittering reception space, a voice cut through the hum of meaningless chatter. "Your Honor, I didn't know you'd be here." Heads turned sharply as if on cue. Conversations died mid-sentence. Champagne flutes froze mid-air. There he was, Calvin Montgomery, Claudine's fiancé, standing by the fountain with a stunned smile breaking across his face. His blue eyes shone with genuine respect as he crossed the marble terrace toward me, extending a hand like we were meeting at a gala, not amid the battlefield of my family's judgment. I shook his hand firmly, my heart pounding so loudly I feared others could hear it. "Judge Voss," he said, loud enough for half the party to overhear. "It's truly an honor to meet you outside the courtroom." A ripple moved through the gathered crowd like an electric shock. Some guests blinked in confusion. Others exchanged thinly veiled looks of horror. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Claudine, frozen mid-laugh, the perfect mask slipping just enough to reveal the panic underneath. Father's jaw tightened so hard I half expected to hear his molars crack. The Voss name was supposed to conjure images of old money, real estate dynasties, and polished political influence, not scandal, not judicial independence. "Likewise," I said smoothly, ignoring the collective inhale around us. For one glorious moment, standing there under a canopy of fairy lights and forced civility, I wasn't Edna the Disgrace. I was Edna Voss, Your Honor, a woman they'd failed to break. As Calvin drifted away, summoned by an oblivious relative, I remained rooted to the spot, savoring the chaos he'd unknowingly unleashed. Around me, whispers bloomed like weeds through the polished marble. "I thought she was... Did you hear what he called her? Since when is she a judge?" Their confusion was almost sweet. Dinner was a farce of clinking silverware and strained smiles. I was seated near the edge of the main banquet table, a calculated placement to minimize my presence without outright banishing me. Every so often I caught Claudine shooting me panicked glances, her fiancé blissfully ignorant as he charmed donors and local officials. Father sat at the head of the table, face impassive, but his fingers drummed an erratic rhythm against the polished wood. A tell he probably thought he'd outgrown. I barely touched my meal, instead nursing a glass of water and studying the players arrayed before me. After the third awkward course, when guests began shifting in their seats and murmuring about cigars and cocktails, my mother appeared at my side, as if conjured by my silent yearning. Dorothy Voss, queen of the passive smile and the polished deflection. "Walk with me, Edna," she said softly, her voice barely cutting through the din. Without waiting for a reply, she turned toward the side garden. Against every instinct, I rose and followed. The twilight wrapped the hedgerows in muted purples and grays as we moved away from the murmuring crowd. Only when we were safely out of earshot did she stop, turning to face me with a mixture of guilt and something startlingly close to fear. "I sent the invitation," she said quickly, eyes darting to the mansion behind us. "Your father, Claudine? They don't know." I stared at her, words bottling up in my throat. "Why?" I asked finally, voice rougher than I intended. Her hands twisted together, wringing the life out of her diamond bracelet. Because I missed you. Because it was wrong, what we did, how we abandoned you. A gust of wind tousled her carefully pinned hair. For once, she didn't reach up to fix it. I couldn't change his mind back then, she whispered. I should have fought harder. I should have. She shook her head, helpless. I'm sorry, Edna. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring at the woman who had once been a fortress of silence against my pleas. I wanted to rage. I wanted to demand why it had taken so long, why she'd stood by while I was gutted at that long-ago dinner. But instead, I heard myself say, thank you for inviting me, because maybe some wounds didn't bleed forever. Maybe some cracks let enough light through to build something new. From the corner of my eye, I caught movement. Father stepping out onto the veranda, scanning the garden. Our moment was over. Go, I said quietly, before he sees. Dorothy nodded once, sharply, like a soldier receiving orders. Then she turned and walked briskly back toward the house. I stayed rooted among the shadowed hedges, breathing in the heavy scent of magnolias, feeling the aftershock of the night settle deep into my bones. The walls had cracked tonight, but the flood was only beginning. I waited until the last whisper of Mother's perfume vanished into the night air before dragging my feet back toward the glowing estate. The main hall pulsed with the laughter and clinking glasses of a crowd that was too good at pretending. Every step toward the gathering felt heavier, but I forced myself onward, chin up, spine straight, armor fully fastened. The rehearsal dinner was being held in the grand ballroom, a cavernous space lined with crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed drapes, and long tables dripping with fine china. The low murmur of conversation filled the air as servers weaved between guests, their silver trays glinting under the warm lights. I slipped quietly through the double doors, hoping to blend into the background. Instead, as if sensing fresh meat, heads swiveled. Stares pierced the air like tiny darts, none of them subtle, all of them heavy with expectation. Someone coughed pointedly. A few snickered behind their glasses. Ignoring them, I made my way to my assigned seat, on the very end of a long, glittering table where the family's least important members apparently belonged. The tablecloth was so white it almost hurt to look at it. Everything gleamed, polished and sharp, much like the smiles pointed in my direction. I barely had time to sip the water placed in front of me before Claudine's voice, high and brittle, rose above the polite clatter of silverware. "Before dessert," she chirped, tapping a crystal flute with a manicured nail, "I'd like to make a quick toast." Every conversation stopped. The attention, previously scattered, snapped to her like iron filings to a magnet. Standing under the largest chandelier, Claudine looked like a magazine cover, flawless, rehearsed, untouchable. She smiled sweetly at the crowd, then, just briefly, let her gaze flick toward me. Something cold slithered down my spine. She raised her glass high. "Family," she began, her voice syrupy. "It's what binds us, elevates us, and sometimes it defines who among us are truly worthy of the name." The first fissures of unease cracked through the room. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. "Some of us," Claudine continued, turning just slightly so that only I could fully catch the gleam in her eye, "have spent their lives honoring our family's legacy. Others have chosen paths that, well, let's just say, don't quite reflect the standards we all cherish." Laughter, sharp, cruel, almost gleeful, rippled through one corner of the room. Someone at the far end snorted audibly. I caught snatches of whispered remarks. "Such a waste." "Didn't she drop out?" "Couldn't hack it, huh?" My throat tightened, but I refused to look away. Claudine lowered her glass with a delicate clink. "Here's to family, and to always remembering who we are meant to be." Glasses raised hesitantly, awkwardly. A few guests sipped. More just stared. I sat motionless, feeling the weight of 100 silent judgments pressing down on me. My hands clenched under the table, the fabric of my dress crumpling beneath my grip. Breathe. Don't give them the satisfaction. The laughter resumed, harsher now, edged with a cruel glee that thickened the air. Aunt Margot leaned across her plate toward Uncle Victor, stage whispering just loud enough. Well, at least she finally made something of herself, in a courtroom nobody's heard of. She's a judge? Victor chuckled, shaking his head. Bet it's some traffic ticket nonsense. Another ripple of laughter. I sipped my water slowly, letting the icy liquid wash down the bile rising in my throat. You know, said Cousin Philip from 2 seats down, his voice carrying, some people just aren't cut out for greatness. It's sad, really. The humiliation swirled around me, each word a small, precise dagger. Yet outwardly, I remained still, a statue amid the storm. Inside, something began to crack. Not in the way they wanted, not breaking, but breaking free. I straightened my spine, set my glass down with a gentle clink, and rose to my feet. Every eye in the room pivoted toward me. I could almost hear the collective breath hold, the sudden sharpness of attention, as if they sensed they had pushed just a fraction too far. I lifted my own glass, meeting Claudine's startled gaze dead on. To success, I said clearly, my voice slicing through the hush. Success isn't measured by the name you inherit. It's measured by the lives you touch, the dignity you maintain, and the battles you fight quietly when no one's clapping for you. The silence stretched taut, almost unbearable. I took a slow sip, then placed the glass back on the table with deliberate calm. Without another word, I turned and walked the length of the hall, past the gaping mouths and frozen stares, the chandeliers throwing broken light across my path. Not one person dared stop me, not even Father. I didn't need their applause. I needed my own damn dignity. I left the ballroom behind without glancing back, the murmurs of my family folding into a dull, distant hum. By the time I reached the guest house where I'd been assigned to stay for the weekend, the anger inside me had cooled to something sharper, something that didn't burn, but sliced. Sleep came in restless fits, the events of the night playing on a bitter loop behind my closed eyes. When the early light finally crept across the ceiling, I dragged myself out of bed and faced the new day. The breakfast buffet was already underway by the time I entered the main dining hall. It was supposed to be an intimate event for family and close friends, a chance to mingle before the final wedding festivities. Instead, it felt like stepping into a different kind of battlefield. The moment I walked in, the energy shifted. Conversations dipped, just for a beat, before picking up again, too brightly, too artificially. Plates clattered a little too loudly. Chairs scraped across the polished floors. I moved through the room carefully, selecting a plate of eggs and fruit, pretending not to notice the ripple effect of my presence. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught snippets. Did you hear? Fired, they said. Some kind of misconduct? Faked a degree. How embarrassing. Imagine dragging the Voss name through that kind of mud. Each word sliced deeper, though no one dared say them directly to me. It was the kind of calculated cruelty that left no fingerprints but all the bruises. I took a seat at a small, empty table near the window, stabbing a piece of cantaloupe with unnecessary force. Across the room, Claudine laughed too loudly at something Calvin said, her hand brushing his arm possessively. Calvin's smile looked strained. He caught my eye briefly, then looked away just as fast, guilt flashing across his features. So, this was their next move. Discredit me quietly, making sure that by the time the actual wedding rolled around, I would be nothing more than a stain to be hidden under the rug. I pushed my plate aside, appetite gone. Later that afternoon, the family hosted a casual garden luncheon for out-of-town guests, a way to show off the estate's sprawling grounds and lush gardens. Tables were arranged under enormous white tents, the summer breeze heavy with the scent of roses and clipped grass. The hired MC, a local minor celebrity with 2 white teeth and a radio voice, entertained the crowd with rehearsed jokes and anecdotes about love and marriage. It was all harmless enough, until it wasn't. And of course, he drawled, smirking broadly, every family's got that one overachiever. You know, the one who makes us all look bad, or thinks they do. A ripple of laughter. And hey, every family's got a black sheep too, right? The one who gets a little too creative with their resumes. The laughter grew louder, some guests glancing not so subtly in my direction. I sat frozen, gripping the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. The MC chuckled. Let's just say, some folks at this party might be better at storytelling than courtroom victories, huh? Aunt Margot leaned in to whisper something to Uncle Victor. He chuckled, wiping his mouth with his napkin. Claudine smiled demurely, feigning innocence behind her champagne glass. The sting was deliberate, precise. A public gutting, but with enough plausible deniability that no one could accuse her of an open attack. I bit the inside of my cheek, forcing my expression to remain neutral. Rising from the table slowly, I walked toward the hedge-lined perimeter of the garden, pretending to admire the roses. I needed the distance, the quiet, the space to think. The humiliation burned in my chest, hot and corrosive. But underneath it, something colder and clearer had started to crystallize. They thought they were burying me. What they didn't realize was that they were handing me the shovel. I could stand here and keep swallowing the poison they spoon-fed me. Or I could start planning my antidote. I leaned against the old stone fountain, watching the sunlight dance on the water's surface. Somewhere deep in my gut, a silent vow began to take root. Next time, I won't just defend myself. Next time, I'll expose them. If they wanted a war, they'd get one. But it would be fought on my terms, not theirs. Across the garden, Claudine's laugh floated toward me again, high, brittle, triumphant. I allowed myself one small smile. Enjoy your victory lap, sister. The race wasn't over yet. The next morning arrived with a heavy, suffocating heat, the kind that pressed down on your skin and seemed to dull the edges of everything around you. I dressed carefully, pulling on a crisp white blouse and black slacks, armor in cotton and thread. The reflection that stared back at me in the guest house mirror was one I barely recognized, calm, composed, but with a hard glint in her eye that hadn't been there before this weekend. The family-only pre-wedding brunch was held in one of the estate's sunrooms, walls of glass letting in too much sunlight, making it feel like being trapped in a gilded cage. Everyone was already gathered when I arrived. Father at the head of the table, Claudine beside him, Calvin stiff at her side. Dorothy sat quietly 2 seats down, her eyes flickering toward me once, filled with something complicated and brittle. The conversation, stiff and forced, circled endlessly around the same themes: legacy, reputation, ambition, all the things I had apparently squandered. I chose a seat at the far end of the table, picking at a croissant I had no intention of eating. It happened so fast, there wasn't even time to brace for it. Edward set down his coffee cup with a decisive clink, cutting through the room's forced chatter like a blade. His gaze locked onto mine, cold, devoid of anything resembling affection. "I want it known," he said, voice loud enough to slice through the polite murmur, "that from this day forward, Edna Voss is no longer considered part of this family's future. She has chosen her own path, and it no longer aligns with the values we uphold." You could feel the air being sucked out of the room. Forks clattered against plates. Someone coughed awkwardly. Claudine sat back in her chair, triumphant, eyes glittering. I sat perfectly still, letting the words hang there, absorbing the sting like a slap across the face. No one came to my defense. Not Calvin, who avoided my eyes. Not my cousins, who busied themselves with their plates. Not even Dorothy, who sat frozen, trembling ever so slightly. I saw it happen before it even fully unfolded. Edward turning to the guests, that politician's smile stretching across his face. "My wife," he said, placing a heavy hand on Dorothy's shoulder, "would like to extend our family's apology for any disruption caused this weekend." Dorothy flinched under his touch but rose obediently, hands wringing the napkin between her fingers like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I'm so sorry for any embarrassment," she mumbled, voice barely carrying across the room. "Edna's choices do not reflect our family's beliefs." My stomach twisted. I wanted to scream, to rip the heavy chandelier from the ceiling and hurl it straight through the glass walls that trapped us in this sick play. But I didn't move. I sat there stone-faced, watching my mother apologize for my existence. Something inside me, something fragile and foolish, finally snapped. I rose to my feet slowly, the chair scraping sharply against the marble floor. All eyes turned to me again. I straightened my spine and smoothed the front of my blouse, feeling every ounce of fury, grief, and betrayal fuse into something colder, something sharper. You can disown me all you want, I said, my voice cutting clear and steady through the stunned silence. You can erase my name from your wills, your speeches, your memories. You can pretend I never existed. I stepped away from the table, the afternoon sunlight catching the silver in my earrings, casting brief flashes of light across the stunned faces staring up at me. But know this, I continued, voice unwavering. You are not erasing me because I failed. You're erasing me because I succeeded without your permission. Aunt Margot gasped softly. Calvin shifted uncomfortably. Claudine's smile faltered. I looked directly at my father. You cannot erase me simply because I outgrew your cage. With that, I turned on my heel and walked out of the sunroom, my steps echoing against the marble like gunshots. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. They had finally drawn their line, and I had drawn mine. The sun was beginning its slow climb higher into the sky as I crossed the gardens back toward the guest wing. The crispness of my earlier defiance still clung to me like an armor, but inside the air felt thinner, heavier, as if some invisible hand was winding the clock tighter and tighter toward an inevitable break. I didn't have to wait long. By midday, Calvin's world cracked open. I found him pacing near the stables, his suit jacket abandoned on a nearby fence post, sleeves rolled up, tie loose around his neck. His face was pale and furious in a way I hadn't seen before, like he was barely holding himself together. Calvin? I called carefully, staying a few steps back. He whipped around at the sound of my voice, a sheaf of printed emails clutched in one hand, crumpled and shaking. They planned it, he said hoarsely. Your father, Claudine, they planned everything. I took another cautious step forward. What are you talking about? Without answering, he shoved the papers into my hands. I scanned them quickly. Internal family emails, whispers of reputation management, fabricated concerns sent anonymously to my judicial ethics board, smear tactics designed to plant doubt in powerful places, fake whistleblowers, forged complaints. All with one aim: destroy my professional standing, strip me of everything I had built. My throat went dry, but I forced myself to meet Calvin's devastated eyes. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice raw. I didn't know. I should have seen. I folded the papers carefully, feeling a cold clarity settle over me. This was never about me embarrassing the family, I said quietly. This was about control, about punishing the one person who refused to play by their rules. Calvin nodded numbly, like he was waking up from a long, ugly dream. He opened his mouth to say something else, but we were interrupted. A text pinged onto my phone. It was from the court's administrative office. Anonymous accusations had been filed against me early that morning, questioning my ethical conduct, suggesting I had taken bribes, that I had perjured myself in a recent case. Lies, every word. But the timing, mere hours after Edward's public disownment, was no coincidence. I closed my eyes for a brief, trembling moment, steadying myself. This was it, the real attack. They weren't satisfied with cutting me out of family photos. They wanted to destroy my life's work too. When I opened my eyes, Calvin was watching me, a question on his face he didn't dare speak aloud. I shook my head. I'm not running, I said. Let them try. Later that day, I agreed to meet Edward for a private discussion over lunch. The invitation had come through Dorothy, phrased innocently enough, a chance to clear the air. But the second I stepped into the oak-paneled private dining room of the country club, I knew better. Edward was waiting, seated comfortably, a leather folder resting beside his whiskey glass. He didn't rise to greet me. Sit, he said. I remained standing. Without preamble, he opened the folder and slid a thick contract across the table toward me. My eyes skimmed the heading, Voss Family Prenuptial Agreement and Public Disclaimer. In short, if I ever married, I was required to sign a document publicly disclaiming any future spouse's claim to the Voss name or fortune. I would also be forced to admit, falsely, that I had struggled with professional misconduct and that the family had been compelled to distance themselves for ethical reasons. It was a formalized character assassination. On paper, forever. I didn't sit. I didn't touch the contract. Instead, I leaned forward, planting both hands on the table. Is this your idea of closure? I asked. Edward smirked. It's protection. From the fallout you're about to bring down on yourself. The gall of it was almost impressive. "You're afraid," I said, voice low but steady. "Afraid that I'll succeed despite you. That people will see through the lies and realize you're nothing but a coward hiding behind a crumbling name." For a moment, just a flicker, I saw something ugly twist across his features. Then it was gone, replaced with bland dismissal. "Sign it," he said, "or don't. Either way, you're out." I picked up the contract with 2 fingers like it was something filthy, tore it neatly down the middle, and dropped the pieces onto the pristine white tablecloth. Edward's face turned a mottled shade of crimson. I turned on my heel and walked out without another word. I found Calvin waiting by the club entrance, a grim look on his face. "How did it go?" he asked. I smiled grimly. "Exactly how it needed to." He nodded, lips pressed into a thin line. "There's something else," he said after a beat. "You need to see this." He pulled out his phone and showed me a string of text messages between Claudine and one of her bridesmaids, gleefully discussing how they'd planted rumors with the media outlets, how they planned to finish what we started before the wedding day. Calvin's hand was trembling. I can't marry her," he said, voice breaking. "I can't be part of this." I placed a hand on his arm, grounding him. "You don't have to," I said. "You have a choice." He looked at me, some old version of loyalty flickering back to life in his eyes. "I stand with you," he said simply. "Whatever comes next." I squeezed his arm once, firmly. This wasn't about romantic alliances anymore. It was about survival, about truth, about burning down a rotten empire so something honest could finally grow. They had underestimated me. That was their first mistake. It would be their last. The sky was a bleak, steely gray as the morning of the wedding crept in. Rain threatened at the edges of the horizon, casting a heavy stillness over the estate that felt less like celebration and more like the eerie calm before a disaster. I stood by my window, arms folded across my chest, watching the staff rush around the courtyard, stringing last-minute white roses and silver ribbons across everything that didn't already scream opulence. Somewhere deep inside, I knew today wouldn't end the way Claudine imagined, and I was ready. Calvin moved faster than anyone expected. At 8 sharp, he called for a private meeting with the family elders. Uncles, aunts, Dorothy, Edward. No Claudine, not yet. I wasn't invited to that meeting, but I didn't need to be. I watched from a distance as Calvin stood at the center of the sunroom, posture ramrod straight, voice calm but cutting. I couldn't hear every word, but the expressions told enough. Shock, horror, rage, and then resignation. Within an hour, word trickled out like water seeping through a cracked dam. The wedding was postponed. Indefinitely. Officially, it was chalked up to irreconcilable differences, but we all knew better. The Voss family's perfect image cracked audibly in the hush that followed. Guests milled around in confusion, women clutching their pearls, men adjusting ties, pretending not to eavesdrop. "Maybe it's cold feet," someone whispered near the fountain. "Maybe the pressure got to him," another murmured over mimosas. But no one bought it. The story didn't fit. Not when Claudine emerged from the house moments later, face ghost pale beneath layers of makeup, eyes darting wild and frantic. Not when Edward stomped across the lawn, jaw tight, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. Not when Dorothy sat frozen on a bench, hands folded too tightly in her lap, the whites of her knuckles showing. No, something had detonated, and everyone smelled the smoke. By late afternoon, Calvin made it official. He uploaded screenshots to his social media. Just enough, not too many. Emails between Claudine and Edward, laughing over their plan to sabotage me. Copies of fabricated concerns submitted anonymously to my court's ethics committee. Mock-ups of fake affidavits Claudine had drafted with her bridesmaids as insurance in case Calvin got cold feet. Within an hour, the screenshots went viral. Within 2 hours, a few prominent guests, business magnates, judges, politicians, began quietly withdrawing from the Voss family's business deals. Deals that had taken Edward years to build. Deals that evaporated with a single click, a single public betrayal. The furious text messages started flying shortly after. I didn't bother reading them all. From Claudine, "You ruined everything." From Edward, "You're dead to us." From random cousins and second cousins I barely remembered. "Hope you're happy. I was. Not because I took pleasure in the wreckage, but because it was their own hands that lit the match. All I had done was refuse to smother the flames anymore. Later that night, I sat outside on the stone steps, a blanket draped around my shoulders, sipping a glass of bourbon Calvin had quietly delivered before disappearing into the night. The sky finally opened up in a slow, weeping rain. It felt fitting. Across the yard, the wedding archway stood abandoned, ribbons drooping, flowers battered by the weather. I could hear Claudine screaming somewhere inside the house, wild, hysterical sobs that made no attempt at dignity now. I didn't flinch. I didn't smile either. This wasn't about revenge. It was about survival, about dignity reclaimed, about truth finally tearing down the pretty lies they'd wrapped around themselves for so long. I thought back to the girl I'd been all those years ago, the one who had left this place with nothing but a suitcase and a spine she wasn't sure was strong enough. She would have been terrified to face all this, but not the woman I was now. The empire they built on lies was cracking, and I was ready to watch it fall. The first rays of the morning sliced through the low clouds, painting the wet streets of Charleston in gold. I stood at my bathroom mirror, adjusting the simple chain around my neck, my breath steady despite the whirlwind I knew waited just outside. Today wasn't about them anymore. Today was about me. I slid into my navy blue suit, a tailored piece I had bought years ago when I couldn't yet afford it, a silent promise to the woman I hoped I would become. I had no idea then how much that version of me would be needed today. By noon, the Charleston Legal Association's annual awards ceremony was packed. Judges, attorneys, community leaders, reporters, some faces I recognized from the wedding debacle, others who had once whispered doubts behind closed doors. Now they sat in neat rows, facing a large stage draped in dignified blue and silver banners. A thick hush filled the room as the keynote speaker, a federal judge whose respect was not given lightly, stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice ringing out clear and firm, "today we honor not just professional excellence but resilience, integrity, the kind of courage that reshapes broken systems." And then he said my name, Edna Voss. A ripple ran through the audience, subtle but unmistakable. Some clapped immediately, others hesitated, then joined in. The applause swelled, not polite, not obligatory, but real. When I walked onto that stage, I didn't walk alone. I carried every late night spent clawing through law books, every sneer I'd swallowed, every lie I refused to let define me. And when they handed me the Crystal Award, engraved simply with "for uncompromising integrity and service," I held it high, not for the family name etched behind me in shadows, but for the woman who had fought to stand here without it. For once, the cameras didn't snap for Edward Voss. They snapped for me. The irony was not lost on me. The same crowd that had once celebrated Claudine's engagement now celebrated my survival. Meanwhile, across town, desperation has a smell. And that afternoon, Claudine's PR campaign launched in a pitiful, shrieking attempt to rewrite history. A glossy Instagram post, her smiling weakly with the caption, "Sometimes family envy destroys what love builds," praying for healing and forgiveness. Fake tearful interviews planted in local blogs, anonymous friends hinting that I had manipulated events, that poor Claudine had been blindsided by her own loyalty. But this time, the internet didn't play along. It didn't take long for real reporters, the kind Claudine hadn't bribed or bullied, to dig deeper. Screenshots resurfaced. Whistleblower accounts appeared. Staffers who once worked the Voss campaigns anonymously confirmed details. Within 24 hours, Claudine's name became a punchline on Twitter. "Might want to invest in better lies next time, sweetie," one viral post read, racking up thousands of likes. Public sympathy didn't just shift, it snapped like a rubber band. Suddenly, I wasn't the black sheep. I was the phoenix, the survivor, the cautionary tale everyone now wanted to quote when speaking about perseverance and integrity. And Claudine? She faded. Not in fire, not in drama, just in the slow, painful silence reserved for those whose masks finally slip, and nobody cares enough to help them pick it back up. That evening, I sat alone on the wide marble steps of the courthouse, my award resting beside me, the city humming quietly around me. The sunset burned low against the horizon, bleeding into the dark. It should have felt like total victory, and in some ways, it did. But there was a hollow too, small and sharp, tucked into the corners of my chest. Winning hadn't erased the scars. It hadn't brought back the years I'd lost to fighting for scraps of love from people incapable of giving it. I traced the rim of my glass with one fingertip, thinking about Dorothy, about the hesitant apology pressed into my hand like a guilty gift, about Calvin, still picking up the broken pieces of his own betrayal. We had survived. But none of us walked away unmarked. Still, for the first time in my life, the future didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a blank page. And I would choose the story that came next. Not them. Not anymore. The spring air smelled different that day. Warmer. Cleaner somehow. Like the kind of morning you only got after a long, violent storm had finally spent itself. I tucked the newspaper under my arm, another article featuring my name, this time on the front page, and turned down the narrow brick path toward a familiar house. Dorothy's house. The place where so much silence had lived for so long. She had invited me for tea, no expectations, no grand reconciliations demanded. Just tea. I almost hadn't come. But something in the way she had asked, plain, human, without pretense, had made me say yes. The screen door creaked as I stepped onto the porch. Dorothy opened it before I could knock. She looked older than I remembered, shoulders a little more stooped, eyes ringed with a weariness that hadn't been there before. But there was something else, too, something raw, something real. "Come in, Edna," she said quietly. The living room hadn't changed much. Same worn floral couch, same chipped family portraits lining the mantel. Only now the house didn't feel like it was holding its breath. We sat across from each other at the coffee table, two mismatched mugs between us. For a while we just sipped, listened to the birds outside. Finally, Dorothy set her cup down with a small clink. "I owe you an apology," she said, voice trembling. I looked at her, waiting. Not just for the past few months, for all of it, for standing by while he... She swallowed hard. "I was afraid. I let my fear make me small, and that cost you more than I can ever make right." My throat tightened, but I stayed silent, letting her say it all. "I want you to know," she continued, blinking rapidly, "that I am proud of you, not because you fought them, not because you won, but because you became someone who didn't let them define you." She reached into a drawer by her side and pulled out a small velvet box. "I've been saving this," she said, sliding it across the table. "It belonged to your grandfather. He wanted you to have it one day." Inside, nestled in blue velvet, was an old gold pocket watch. Engraved on the back were the words, "Stand tall." The air seemed to thicken around me. I closed the box carefully, hands steady. "Thank you," I said, voice low but sure. And I meant it. Not because her words erased the years. They didn't. They never could. But because she had finally seen me. Later that week. The recognition came quietly but publicly. A formal announcement from the National Judicial Board. Edna Voss, honored for exemplary service and commitment to ethical practice in law. Photos ran in major papers. Editorials praised my work. Community leaders sent letters. I wasn't Edward Voss's daughter anymore. I was Edna Voss, on my own terms, by my own making. At a small reception organized by my colleagues, I stood at the podium, looking out over a sea of faces, some new, some old, all smiling without agenda. I spoke plainly. Integrity isn't inherited, it's built, brick by brick, day by day, even when no one's looking. The applause was genuine, warm, and it didn't feel hollow this time. It felt earned. And the family? I kept my distance. Dorothy and I found a quiet rhythm, occasional lunches, cautious phone calls. Edward, Claudine. They remained names attached to an old pain I no longer fed. I didn't wish them harm, but I didn't invite them into my future either. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some doors need to stay closed for the sake of the soul that survived what happened behind them. Family, I realized, isn't about blood. It's about choice, about respect, about finding or building the people who stand with you, not against you, when the world tilts sideways. One quiet evening, I sat on my porch, the same pocket watch ticking steadily in my hand, the sky above me stained purple with sunset. No wars left to fight, no battles left to win, just the open, wild possibility of what came next. I wasn't a disgrace. I was a survivor. And now, I was free. Maybe that's the real victory. It's not about making everyone who doubted you finally believe. It's about standing tall even when they don't. It's about choosing yourself, even when nobody else will. And it's about learning that sometimes, the family you choose matters more than the one you're born into. If my story means anything, it's this. You are not defined by the voices that tried to drown you out. You are defined by the fire you keep alive inside you, quietly, stubbornly, gloriously, until the day the world has no choice but to see it. We all carry scars, but scars aren't shameful. They're proof we fought, survived, and became more than what tried to break us. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone to truly find yourself? Or maybe you're still standing at that crossroads, wondering if you're strong enough. Trust me, you are. If this story touched your heart, drop a 1 inch in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If you didn't vibe with it, I still want to hear your thoughts. What part didn't click with you? Let's connect and grow together. And hey, if you want more stories that hit where it matters most, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's keep building a space where real stories, real lessons, and real strength are celebrated. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, stay you.
Wait, forget it. Let's get divorced, Maria said, reaching for a shelf in the corner of the living room. She pulled out a piece of paper and placed it in front of me. Is this really it? Was it an actual divorce form? Have you been preparing for this all along? I asked, my eyes wide with disbelief as I looked back and forth between the divorce form and Mariah. Hurry up and sign it. Also, I'm taking the New York house. You can live modestly in Nebraska. This can't be happening. I fought as everything went dark before my eyes. At that time, I'm going to Nebraska. What? What? Sean announced unexpectedly, leaving Mary shocked and me a step behind, asking for clarification. What on earth was Sean thinking? Neither of us could understand. My name is Tosh Jeller, a 50-year-old. I have worked for years as a buyer at the major department store, Marcy's department store. Most people might think working in such a glamorous industry means I'm making a fortune. However, the reality is far from it. The world of a buyer is incredibly harsh. No one can ever predict what products will definitely sell. It's common for items that were selling like hotcakes last year to barely move off the shelves this year. Behind every blockbuster product, there are countless duds. Right now, I'm juggling 2 jobs. One is visiting our regular customers' homes to see if they need anything and arranging for those items. It's somewhat like being a personal shopper. Many of our familiar customers are getting older and find it difficult to visit the department store themselves. The other job is importing European brands, focusing mainly on men's wear and accessories. Oh, what a coincidence. One day when I visited a regular customer's home, I ran into Nicholas Austin, who had arrived before me. He's the MD at Nordstrom Trading, our biggest rival department store. MD stands for Merchandiser, the department store star player who's not only involved in purchasing, but also in product development and manufacturing. They have a broader scope of duties than buyers and are often the go-getter type of salesperson. We met in front of another customer's house the other day, didn't we? Yes, they mentioned wanting to get a new down comforter for the winter. Nordstrom Trading, where Austin works, has a superior bedding lineup compared to ours. Since consumers have the right to choose where to buy based on the product, we can't complain if they prefer Nordstrom Trading over us. By the way, how's your wife doing? He suddenly asked. You see, my wife, Maria, and Austin were college classmates. Well, she's doing fine. No particular issues, I replied with a meaningful smile. After a day out on the job, returning to our company always brings a wave of exhaustion. I ran into Austin again. But again, Well, he is the top gun at Nordstrom Trading. That came from Hayden, a junior colleague of mine. Despite being a 10-year veteran buyer, the junior vibe hasn't worn off, probably because I've been looking out for him since he was a newbie. You should be careful. He's really clever. Seems like he quickly captures the hearts of wealthy ladies, Hayden said. Hey, what did you just say? I asked. I said he captures the hearts of wealthy ladies, Hayden repeated. But having colleagues to joke around with is healing for me right now. I thought back to the conversation with Austin. By the way, how's your wife doing? Well, no particular issues. I'm surprised I managed to answer like that considering Mariah and I are anything but problem-free. When I first met Mariah, she was still in college. I was sitting next to her at a drinking party I was invited to by a friend, and we hit it off. What? You work at Marcy's department store? That's amazing, Mariah said. Well, yeah, but it's not that big of a deal. Back then, the job market was in favor of the sellers. On the day job restrictions were lifted, companies would throw lavish dinner parties for their new hires to prevent them from going to other interviews and send them home with taxi vouchers. Everyone, including myself, was fired up about making a mark as young professionals. Maybe that's why we felt a bit more confident, even when it came to the opposite sex. Maria was all eyes when I landed a job at Marcy's, constantly making eyes at me. That's amazing. Do you get an employee discount? Luckily, her eyes sparkled with longing as she looked up at me, and I couldn't help but be swayed. Soon after, things progressed quickly, and we started dating. By the time Maria graduated from college, she was pregnant, and we ended up getting married. One thing that I wasn't anticipating was that even during the bubble economy, my income for the first 3 years wasn't much to speak of. What? This is all I get this month. I've seen Maria's excitement quickly deflate upon seeing the amount in my paycheck countless times. Did you deceive me? I wasn't told it would be this little. Those words hit me harder than expected. Everyone around is in the same boat, plus, being in the 3rd year, we're still greenhorns, and the salary is supposed to go up from here. I hope so. From that moment, the gears in our marriage began to misalign. Maria only seems to be in a good mood twice a year, only during Marcy's department store's family sale. On this day alone, I truly feel glad I married you, she'd say. On the day of the sale, she'd leave early in the morning by herself, returning in the evening with her arms full of shopping bags. I work hard every day with housework and childcare, so this is only fair, she claims. She cleans, but she rarely does any. I'm the one who handles the laundry in the morning before work and takes care of it when I get home. Takeout or supermarket ready meals are a common sight at our dinner table. However, the fact that I've left childcare entirely up to Mariah is undeniable, so I can't say her argument is completely wrong. I've been eyeing this bag for so long. Keep working hard and earning. As a result, my Christmas bonus vanishes in an instant every year. It's likely this year will be no different. But Williams, you're going to be transferred here starting next month. I was mentally prepared for a personnel transfer around this time, but when it was actually proposed to me, I couldn't help but feel apprehensive. The reason? I was reluctant about the transfer order. Was Nebraska? I quickly pulled up a map in my mind. It's a place you definitely can't commute to from my home in New York. Do you understand why I'm saying this? Yes, facing this transfer, which could be seen as a demotion, I wasn't in a position to complain. The Italian brand purchases keep failing. Is it due to marketing, or maybe your instincts have dulled with age? That hit a sore spot. Being a buyer requires not only meticulous market research, but also, above all, a good sense of style. Trends change rapidly every day. If you don't keep up, you won't produce results in this tough world. However, I've heard rumors that the store in Nebraska might eventually close. When I said that, my boss answered in a hesitant tone. Well, rumors are just rumors. Nothing's been decided yet. Is that so? Neither of us said anything more. Bridging home with my shoulders slumped, I was trying to figure out the right timing to tell Maria. Looking at the dinner table, the same ready meals from the day before yesterday were laid out. I sighed. What? Got a complaint? No, it's not that. Maria frowned. Now was the only chance to say it. I've been assigned to work at the store in Nebraska starting next month. I tentatively watched Maria's reaction. Her mouth hung open in shock, gaping. Wait, hold on. Suddenly, Nebraska of all places. Maria stood up abruptly, agitated. There's no arguing with the company's orders. We'll be busy with moving preparations from now on, so you'll start tomorrow, she said, hysterically. Don't joke, she screamed. Hysterically, she screamed. Then turned away from me, shutting herself as if to protect herself. It's impossible. No way. I'm definitely not going. Hey, calm down. Let's go to Nebraska together as a family, all right? I approached Maria, trying to soothe her. But she looked at me coldly and said, What is impossible? We're getting a divorce. With that, she briskly walked past me to a shelf in the corner of the living room. She pulled out a piece of paper and placed it in front of me. Is this what I think it is? It was an actual divorce form, already filled out in Maria's section and even signed. Have you been preparing this all along? I asked, my eyes wide in disbelief. Looking back and forth between the divorce form and Maria, you expect me to live in such a remote place? No way. Besides, you never were the man who could meet the lifestyle I wanted. Do you have any idea how hard I've worked up until now? Both of us were getting more and more heated. I had a mountain of things I wanted to say to Maria over the years, but I swallowed most of them, and made it to today. Besides, this transfer might have been an opportunity to improve our strained relationship a bit. I had some hope that changing our environment might make things better. Yet, hurry up and sign this. Also, I'm taking the New York house. You can live modestly in Nebraska. This can't be happening. Everything went dark before my eyes. Ignoring me, Maria sat down on the sofa and started fiddling with her smartphone. Just leave it there when you're done. I'll file it with the clerk's office of the County Supreme Court first thing tomorrow morning. Irritated by her way of not looking up from her smartphone and ignoring me, I snapped, Hey, listen. Just got home right when I was about to argue. Our son Sean came home. Welcome back. June, your mom, and I are getting a divorce. What's with the sudden news? Well, I kind of sensed that things between you two were off somehow, he said calmly. The two of them laughing together in the situation made me feel even more alienated. But you know, nothing's going to change for me and Sean, really. Dad, where are you going? Cut off guard, I was snapped back to reality. I've been transferred to the store in Nebraska. Nebraska, Sean muttered to himself. There's no way we're going to such a rural place, right, Dad? You must have assumed me and Sean would follow you. How naive of you. Maria looked down on me triumphantly and burst into laughter. My family was ready to abandon me as I was sent off to a remote location. I closed my eyes tightly. But I'm going to Nebraska. What? The unexpected response from Sean took Maria by surprise, and I too asked again, a bit too late. What are you talking about? You just started working in New York, Maria said. It's already 2024, you know. With just a laptop, you can work from anywhere. Plus, I've always been kind of fascinated by that kind of work. I'll talk to my boss about it first thing tomorrow. With that, Sean's eyes sparkled as he rushed into his room. What's gotten into him? Sean's always been a city kid through and through, I said, perhaps shocked by her son's refusal. Maria started blaming me. Did you put some ideas into Sean's head behind my back? He would never say something like that. He always listened to everything I said. Hey, calm down. I'm just as confused as you are. I was actually surprised too, thinking Sean would definitely choose to stay with you. Maria and I both found ourselves staring at Sean's room door at the same time. We had no clue what our son was thinking. With my transfer to Nebraska looming, I'm currently faced with a pile of problems. First and foremost, the issue of divorce. How about we start with a separation and see how things go? No way. I don't want anything half-hearted. Please, let's just get divorced quickly. Our discussions were at a stalemate. For me, it wasn't that my love for Mariah had disappeared, but Mariah felt differently. Choosing you was a mistake from the beginning. I only married you because you worked at Marcy's department store. The only benefit I've received is the semi-annual family sale. In essence, what you wanted wasn't me, but the money I earned and the employee discount. Scene has graduated college, and we've paid off his fees. Our expenses should decrease now, leading to a more comfortable life. Enough already. Mariah barricaded herself in the bedroom, burying her face in the bed and screaming like a child throwing a tantrum. Please, let's just get divorced already. Was Odette disliked? There's nothing I can do when I begged to this extent. All right. I reluctantly signed the divorce form. The next issue is Sean's guardianship of a child for divorced parents lasts until the child reaches the age of 18 years old, so it's up to Sean where and with whom to live. Scene: Are you really going to move to Nebraska with Dad? You could also move out and live on your own, you know. You have plenty of options. Don't rush into anything, okay? What's with that tone? It's like you don't want me to come with you. Honestly, part of me felt that way. The idea of living in the countryside with my 23-year-old son wasn't part of my future vision anyway. I got the okay from my boss. I wanted to move out and be independent, you know. But moving to Nebraska and working remotely sounds pretty cool too. Is this how Jenny thinks? Despite my worries, Scene was steadily preparing for the move. Mom's going to miss you, you know. I muttered toward Scene's back, and he burst out laughing. Dad, are you serious? Haven't you noticed how upbeat Mom has been since you agreed to the divorce? Her interests have moved on to something else, somewhere else. I was completely clueless. Well, we'll get to that eventually, Scene replied with a meaningful tone. And so, with a part of me still not fully convinced, I respected Maria's wishes and finalized our divorce, starting a new life with my son in Nebraska. Please put the TV over there. Watch your step. Despite my confusion, Scene efficiently directed the movers. Apologies, I'm new to the city. I've updated my residency. When will the electricity and gas be activated? Thanks for your assistance. Scene had already taken care of setting up the utilities without me realizing it. Now we just need to set up the Wi-Fi. Great. Oh, Dad, the fridge is going there. You're in the way. Yeah, sure. It almost feels like Scene is the head of the household, and I'm just a lodger. It's crucial to experience living independently as an adult. I wanted to manage all administrative and utility setups on my own. Thanks. Oh, no. Thank you. I'm the one who should be grateful. Even though the company provides an allowance, I didn't have to deal with any of the extra paperwork related to the move. We've got a gas stove, so I'll cook dinner on that today. I found a really nice supermarket nearby. The groceries are fresher and cheaper than in New York. With that, he sped off on his road bike that had been loaded onto the moving truck. Before I knew it, having him around is actually a huge help, more than I expected. Like a whirlwind, Scene has begun to envelop my daily life. I've never faced my son this much before. Seeing Scene so happy like that has been a long time coming. After failing at my job, getting transferred to a remote area, and easily handed divorce papers by Maria, my longtime partner, I thought my life was a mess. Yet, opening this new chapter, I find myself excited about starting a new life with Scene. From tomorrow, it's a strange feeling. 3 months have passed since I was assigned to the branch in the city. Until recently, I was a buyer at the headquarters in New York. But now, I'm working in customer support at the store, Initially, I wasn't too keen on it. But standing in the store, I've come to realize there's a lot to learn first off. I was surprised to see the clientele at the branch beginning to change. It used to be mostly senior affluent customers, but now there's a larger middle-aged demographic and notably more immigrants. In the headquarters in New York, there were plenty of employees fluent in languages, so it wasn't a concern. But here in the countryside, the reality is that only a few of us can speak second languages to some extent. But why are so many aliens making the effort to come to a branch in such a rural area? When I casually asked Scene about it, he said, as if it were obvious, "Dad, didn't you know? This area has a strong foundation, so companies are flocking here to build data centers. There are many foreign companies among them." Is that so? I thought. Maybe the shopping boom had come around again. I realized I need to be more aware of the world's trends. Scene continued, "It's not just IDY. A major foreign real estate company is about to enter the neighboring town. Was it a company from Singapore? I forgot the details. So the aliens coming to Marcy aren't just immigrants, but came here to work in this town." That's right, Scene confirmed. And their number might increase in the future. I've always wondered how I would work in such a rural area moving forward. If there's such a bright future for the land itself, maybe I don't need to be so pessimistic. Hearing Scene's talk made me feel a bit more positive. But closing down, you say? 6 months after the transfer, just when I was finally getting used to our new life. Trouble follows trouble. The rumors turned out to be true. The manager gathered only the supervisory members to painfully announce the decision from above. In the last 5 years, sales haven't grown. Instead, the deficit has been ballooning. Closing down is inevitable. It's not like there's no activity. Can't something be done? But the manager shook his head. It seems we're out of options. How can anyone maintain motivation in a workplace that's nearing its end? I've completely lost my drive. I sighed. Dad, you've been looking down lately. Didn't you like the spaghetti after dinner? As I was idly standing in the yard, Scene suddenly spoke to me. By now, he's fully adapted to this place, enjoying the countryside life even more than me. It's surprising that he's also become a member of the local volunteer fire brigade, deepening his ties with the neighbors. Oh, well, just a bit, I responded. What I'm curious about, come on, tell me, pressed by my son. I reluctantly informed him of the closing of the Marcy branch. I see. So, Dad's layoff might happen before reaching retirement age, Scene pondered. There might be. I won't be called back to the headquarters in New York, and the future looks bleak. I laughed helplessly. Then, after a moment of deep thought, Scene suddenly lit up with an idea that seemed utterly out of the blue to me. I was simply impressed by that fantastic idea. Imported goods from China, yes. Given the diverse clientele at this branch, it might just be successful, I exclaimed. Based on a hint Scene gave me last night, I stayed up all night to draft a proposal and presented it to the manager and others. Chinese products are now overflowing with high-quality, high-value items. We're thinking of covering those hard-to-import products with Mars Department Store's financial resources. But first off, where do you plan to source these products? I had a plan for this, unbeknownst to some. Scene is in charge of app development and Asian marketing at an ID venture company. I've already pinpointed unique sales sites in China, Macau, and Singapore. We'll source from there. How did you manage that? And even if we source them, how are we going to sell them? The branch manager's concern was valid after all. No branch, not even the headquarters in New York, had ever undertaken such a business. We'll ask an ID company to create a dedicated platform exclusively for our city branch. Sales staff will access it anytime using tablets on the floor. Outsourcing is the best option. Such an elaborate system isn't easy to build, the manager lamented, intrigued with this momentum. We decided to go all in. We'll not just cater to American customers, but primarily to foreigners. If you spot a foreigner pondering over products in the store, it's a good strategy to quickly show them the tablet. So it's about turning there. I wish I could find this here into reality, right? By doing this repeatedly, the sales staff can develop a sense for what appeals to aliens. I nodded vigorously. The title of buyer isn't necessary anymore. Each salesperson will naturally acquire the skill and play their part. We'll offer desired products until they're accustomed. Then we'll anticipate trends and restock quickly. We'll also collaborate with a market research app, however. The branch manager pondered for a moment, likely calculating the cost of system development in his head. Seeing the manager's worried expression, I pleaded, "My son works at an ID venture company. This is also his proposal, and it's within the realm of possibility. Why not give it a trial run?" Then the manager and the supervisory members listening began to nod in agreement. Either way, this branch was on the verge of closure. Even if the proposal seemed far-fetched, it was better than doing nothing. The high-ups are leaning towards closure. "Let's make this our final stand and amplify the voice of the field," declared the branch manager with determination. Encouraged by his enthusiasm, the faces of the surrounding employees brightened up in no time. Thus, a trial store involved import business project was launched. Scene, the proposer, quickly liaised with the superiors and stakeholders, and the contract was successfully established. And just like that, 3 months flew by. Let's move on to the final phase. Here is the home screen as per the specifications we discussed in the conference room. At the back of the Omaha brand M's face appeared on the projector screen via video call. Naturally, I'd see him once I got home, which made me feel a bit embarrassed. After all, I never see this assertive side of him at home. He's actually good at his job. Huh. "Mr. Williams, are you listening?" Oh yes, of course. The employees around us watched our interaction and laughed. I couldn't help but laugh along as the project began to take off. And nearly a year had passed. The high-ups decided to call off the closure of the branch. The import business was a huge success. I didn't lose my job. In fact, this term, including my bonus, my monthly income exceeded $80,000. "Sean, thank you so much. It's all because of you." "Well, yay. It's all thanks to me." His lack of modesty was actually quite refreshing. Just as the two of us were celebrating with a beer shower in the yard, a familiar voice echoed at the front gate. "Chun, are you there?" Hearing that voice, Scene and I exchanged glances. "Maria, what's going on?" "You surprised me. It's been 2 years since the divorce. I haven't seen Maria even once since then." Opposite to my happiness, just seeing her face shown next to me casts a suspicious look and says, "What are you doing here?" No need to talk like that. Even after finally seeing their mom for the first time in a while, they don't seem happy at all. "Let's at least go inside," as I'm about to say. Scene quickly stops me. "There's no need for that. Just go home. I know you've been deceiving Dad all this time." "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" Scene said, sounding excited, "Dad, this woman has been cheating on you with a college buddy, right? I saw them walking closely together, and she even brought him home, didn't she? I always felt a weird vibe whenever I came back from work." That can't be. I was completely taken aback, but at that moment, a person crossed my mind. Could it be Austin? Maria and Austin were college buddies. That smug look on Austin's face when he asked how my wife was doing, deep down something had always been bothering me. The only mistake in my life was choosing you over Austin for Nordstrom Trading. If I had chosen him from the start, I could have been living the high life. Maria stamped her feet right there, and then both Sean and I were appalled by such childish behavior. "Dad, see, I told you so, didn't I? Back when we were in New York, I used to come home late and didn't pay much attention to the household. But Sean was different. He spent more time with Mariah than I did. I believe Sean. So you've been involved with Austin even after we got married." "Huh. I asked her quietly with a stern look on my face, and Mariah raised an eyebrow and smirked as if to mock me. I thought I could keep deceiving you because you're so oblivious. Yes, I was cheating. So what? Unlike you, he fulfills all my desires. I was speechless at Mariah's brazenness. But you still love me, don't you? Fine, I'll remarry you. You guys have been doing well lately, haven't you? Mariah glanced between C and me with a snake-like stare. Don't joke with me. The love I had for you has cooled off this very moment. It's not just cool. It's turned into contempt. Get out, I said, trembling. What did you say? Looking back, I had never talked back to Mariah like this before. Trembling, her lips, Maria then turned to plead with Sean. Hey Sean, won't you help your mom? Recently, even Austin has started running out of money. Let's ignore your dad like before and live happily together, shall we? With that, Maria tried to cling to Sean, but Sean shook her off. Live with someone like you? That's nauseating. I've grown attached to this place, and as I've matured, I've begun to grasp how hard Dad worked for the family, Sean said. At those words, I felt a warmth in my eyes. You thought me your dad would feel sorry for you? Now, what? A delusional woman. Mariah, completely abandoned by her husband and son who had always obeyed her, collapsed right there. I slowly approached and looked straight into Mariah's eyes. Don't ever come back here. Go be happy with your affair partner, I said. Then, Sean grabbed my shoulder with force. We should get alimony. You can't show mercy now, Dad, Sean urged. I answered calmly, of course, that's the plan. Oh, really? Sean backed down easily. Hearing that, Maria suddenly started pleading. Wait a minute, I didn't hear anything about alimony. That's not can't pay, but you will. You've committed a serious sin of infidelity, and you need to show you're making amends. That's the least you can do for Sean. How could you? Mariah found herself in a no-win situation. We stood in front of Mariah, side by side with our arms crossed, blocking her way. Get out, I commanded. With that, Maria fled as if running away. Months later, through a lawyer, Maria was ordered to pay $40,000 in alimony after the divorce. If more than 3 years passed, the statute of limitations for alimony claims would expire. Both Sean and I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, acknowledging it was a close call. Naturally, Mariah, being unemployed, couldn't pay such a large amount. Maria turned to Austin for help, but shockingly, it was discovered he had been involved with several other women besides her. Most of them were wealthy madams who were his clients, and I was disgusted by his utterly despicable actions. One of these madams caused a huge scene at Nordstrom Trading, and Austin's misdeeds came to light, resulting in his termination. Then, in a twist of fate, Austin was the one begging Mariah for help. Despite her age, Maria looked young and had good looks. Support me by working in the nightlife industry, he pleaded, to which Mariah reluctantly agreed. However, when she started job hunting, her age prevented her from even getting interviews. Maria, once confident in her looks, now lives with Austin in a manga cafe room, almost homeless and her pride hurt. Both have truly fallen from grace. If only you had valued Dad more, you could have been a real socialite wife, Scene said sarcastically. As for me, I was assigned to the New York head office starting this term. Despite being close to retirement, this came as an unexpected promotion. Honestly, I enjoyed living with my son, so much that I wished to stay in this place forever. But when I mentioned that, Scene laughed and said, "Cut it out with the jokes." And then came the day of the move to New York. Come visit any time. I love your pastas, Scene said. It's not the past you love, it's me, right, father and son. We shared a warm handshake. I guess the $20 million deal is off, the client's representative told me on the day of the crucial negotiation. Our company's fate depended on it. Perhaps I shouldn't have gotten involved with that woman in the first place. It's too late now, even if I think that way. This hopeless situation won't change. As I was about to leave the venue, I was stunned by the shocking words I heard. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm a 25-year-old medical sales representative, MSR, working for a pharmaceutical company. As an employee, I visit healthcare professionals to provide information about our medicines and try to get them to use our products. I feel like I'm doing my best, but my reputation with my boss is terrible. Why? Because my sales performance is far from good, to put it mildly. Every time my results are so low, you'd be faster counting from the bottom. My boss never misses a chance to make snide remarks about it. Naturally, from the company perspective, the more of our medicines they buy, the better. But I had doubts about just blindly going after sales and getting results. Our company has many talented people, and there are countless folks I could never beat in sales performance, no matter how hard I try. But I never wanted to compete with them in the first place. If my results are poor, I could even get fired. Still, I wanted our medicines to be purchased where they're truly needed. Building good relationships with clients and earning their trust is crucial. I want them to understand the effects and benefits of our products and make informed decisions to do business with us. You've got a gloomy look on your face. I don't mean to look that way. We haven't seen each other in a while, but you seem down. Do you think I'm too nice? Come on, you're like the type who goes around wearing a shirt that says Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not that bad. Even I can be cold-hearted at times. Okay then, give me an example of when you were so cold-hearted. Well, see, no matter how hard you try to act, there's no way you could do that. Eric. I guess you're right. Are you worried about something? Fine, I'll hear you out. No, well, what do you think about this sales above all else mentality? Whoa, are you about to launch into some criticism of capitalism? Don't make fun of me after asking. Forget it. Never mind. I don't know what happened, but I don't think you're cut out for the money is everything approach, though I think that's something you can be proud of. As my cousin said, I can perhaps be proud of that as a person. But at our company, sales are everything. So it was inevitable that Paul Kennedy, the sales director, would come to make snide remarks again about my sales numbers this month. Eric, looks like your sales performance was poor again this month. I'm very sorry, sir. This is troubling. You haven't ranked near the top even once since joining the company, have you? I have no excuse. No need to apologize. But it'd be good if you could deliver some results soon. It's a bit of an issue for the company. I understand. You say that every time, but do you really understand? That's easier said than done. You know that's true. But I don't enjoy saying these things either. It's just that your performance is so terrible. I have no choice but to say something. He speaks politely, but I can't help but sense the occasional undercurrent of condescension. He always picks on me like this, making me feel really awful. I was satisfied with my own work. My relationships with clients are excellent, and we've built mutual trust. I can say with certainty that if I had only focused on increasing sales, things would never have turned out this way. Then I got a call from a client representative I'm close with. Thanks for your continued support. Is something the matter? Are you having any troubles? No, not at all. I'm truly grateful for how well you always treat me, Mr. Johnson. Oh, come on. I'm flattered. Thank you. Today, I wanted to let you know about something. If you're interested, what might that be? I'm acquainted with a representative at a well-known university hospital. I happened to mention you to that person. You talked about me? Yes. You see, this university rep really values character. They asked me if I knew anyone like that. I see. You not only care about me as a client, but also the patients who actually use the medications. Of course. My job is to sell pharmaceuticals to healthcare providers, but ultimately, what matters is whether the patients can have a comfortable experience. That should go without saying, but some folks only care about selling medicines. If anything, that's the majority. I had a personal experience. I see. It's too personal, so I'll refrain from going into details. Got it. Anyway, you were the first person who came to mind. One thing led to another, and now they want to request a business meeting with you. Really? I'm honored. I'll give you their contact info, so try reaching out to them directly. Thank you so much. I promptly called the number they gave me and arranged to speak directly with the university rep. I earnestly conveyed information about the medications, how I think relationships should be in my work approach. Unexpectedly, my words seemed to resonate with the university rep. They offered me a business deal worth $20 million. Determined not to let this chance slip away, I vowed to prepare thoroughly from morning to night. Having received the offer, I decided to go home. A bit bitterly, that day, to put together materials. I had already gathered information at the office. I wanted to focus on compiling documents at home. I tend to get distracted when people are around, so I make a point of assembling materials at home when it's really important. Wanting to get home as quickly as possible, I decided to take a shortcut that would get me there about 10 minutes faster. Although it was a bit dark, while I was still motivated to devote everything to my work, I turned into the back alley. In the dim light of the street lamps, I noticed a woman walking ahead of me. I figured there would naturally be some people out since it was a public road, but she seemed to be staggering, which worried me. As I passed by the woman, I got a glimpse of her face and profile and was shocked by how beautiful she was. My fatigue vanished, but she didn't seem to be feeling very well. I thought about asking, "Are you okay?" but figured she might get scared being spoken to by a man in such a dark place. With that in mind, I passed by the woman. Right after that, I heard a thud. When I instinctively turned around, the woman was just about to fall forward. At that moment, without thinking, I called out to the woman, "Watch out," and managed to catch her body before she fell. This time, I asked, earnestly, "Are you all right?" She mumbled, "I'm sorry," in a faint voice, then immediately lost consciousness. I was pretty fled inside, but somehow calmed myself. I quickly checked her pulse and found her blood pressure was clearly low. Holding my hand over her mouth and nose, I felt a bit relieved that she seemed to be breathing, but she might be in shock. Just to be safe, I decided to call an ambulance. When I went out to the main street, an ambulance happened to be driving this way. I ran out into the lane the ambulance was in and opened my arms wide. There was a considerable distance, so I wasn't worried about getting hit. Still, the paramedic who got out of the ambulance yelled at me, "What are you doing? That's dangerous." But I didn't have a moment of worrying about that. "This woman suddenly collapsed just now. Could you take her to the hospital?" I said, forgetting about me. The paramedic immediately went over to the woman and checked her pulse and such. Then he swiftly loaded her into the ambulance, which sped off with its siren blaring. I watched the ambulance until it disappeared from view. I was worried about that beautiful woman, but we were just strangers when it came down to it. So, while praying for her safety, I decided to focus all my attention on preparing for tomorrow's crucial business meeting. I mean, it was a $20 million deal. If I didn't give my all for this meeting, then when would I? Naturally, word of this major deal spread throughout the company. Of course, it reached for Kennedy's ears too. He appeared out of nowhere just as I was about to head home. Well, you brought in a big business deal. Where did this opportunity come from?" he asked. "It came about through someone at the company I'm in charge of, whom you're also familiar with, Director," I replied. "No matter how much I think about it, I can't believe you're capable of handling such a big negotiation," he said. "What do you mean? Now, don't get so upset, but it's true, isn't it? Your sales performance is abysmal. I'd never expect this," he continued. "The university rep for the business deal said my sincere attitude is excellent, and they wanted to work with me," I retorted. Sincere? Huh. Don't think you fall for something that doesn't even make money. A big job is wasted on someone like you with no ability, he said. What are you trying to say? I asked, feeling a mixture of frustration and confusion. Honestly, the fate of our company rests on this deal. Do you really think you can pull it off? He challenged. Right now, all I'm thinking about is putting everything into making this deal a success, I replied firmly. Is that so? Very well. But remember what will happen if this deal falls through, he warned ominously. Director Kennedy stared at my face expressionlessly for a while, then walked off somewhere. I had only slept for 3 hours because I was putting the materials together until the last minute. I considered pulling an all-nighter, but was afraid I might screw up during the meeting if my head wasn't clear. So, I got at least a little sleep. I quickly got ready and left for the university hospital where the meeting would be held, aiming to arrive an hour early. There was no guarantee a train delay wouldn't happen if some unforeseen circumstances arose today of all days. I absolutely could not be late. The trains ran on schedule without incident, and I safely arrived at the university hospital reception an hour early. I told the receptionist I had an appointment. She said, "Please wait a moment while I confirm." But something felt off. The receptionist was sneaking glances at my face while whispering on the phone with someone. Has some problem come up? Had I gotten the scheduled time wrong? But no matter how many times I double-checked, I could only reconfirm the fact that I had definitely arrived an hour early. Having something like this happen before a meeting naturally made me anxious. Even though I hadn't messed up, I started to feel like I had. After about 5 minutes, the call ended. I was told, "Please have a seat and wait until the scheduled time." I did as instructed. When the appointed time came, the receptionist guided me to the parlor where the meeting would be held. As she opened the door, there was the beautiful woman I had helped yesterday, waiting with a cheery smile. I was surprised to realize the person who had proposed this business deal was her. What an incredible coincidence, I thought, and was about to say so out loud. But the moment she saw my face, her expression clearly soured. I quickly replayed my actions, wondering if I had done something rude in this short time. No, could it have been when I helped her yesterday? But I couldn't think of anything at all. Feeling uneasy, I sat in the chair indicated and waited to see what the beauty would do. I was on pins and needles, worried she might abruptly say the deal was off. "Thank you for helping me yesterday. I'm so glad to see her doing well," she said. "My name is Madison Hanson. You really saved me. It's all thanks to you. How are you feeling?" She continued. "Thanks to you, I'm all right now. I collapsed due to low blood pressure and caused you concern. I'm so glad you're okay," I replied, heart pounding. I continued the conversation with Miss Hanson, feeling my way, but I caught glimpses of cold emotions from time to time. I was literally gripped by fear. Why was she talking to me like this? When we set the meeting date over the phone, she was so cheerful and personable. What on earth happened? No, maybe I made some terrible blunder without realizing it. Anxiety welled up, one after another. I was in no mental state to have a business meeting. As if seeing right through me, she suddenly said, "I guess the $20 million deal is off after all." She was clearly angry about something. I thought I must have done something to her. Feeling like I'd been hit in the temple with a bat, I managed to squeeze out the words, "I'm very sorry." Then, feeling dizzy, I got up from my chair and tried to leave. "Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take it out on you," she said, stopping me in my tracks. Hearing those words, I had no idea what she was apologizing for. "I'm sorry for causing a misunderstanding. You're Eric Johnson, right?" Suddenly hearing my name, I still couldn't see how any of this connected. Come to think of it, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Madison Hanson. Please have a seat. For now, my mind not functioning, I sat in a chair like a puppet as instructed. I wasn't angry at you, still confused. I had no idea how to respond even after hearing that. Perhaps because I had such a dumbfounded look on my face, Miss Hanson started laughing as if she couldn't pull back anymore. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. If I were you, I would have frozen up the same way. What is going on? I'm still confused. That's understandable. I invited you here to talk business, then I went and took my anger out on you. Clearing her throat, Miss Hanson began to explain. The person I was angry at was your boss, Mr. Kennedy. Now I'm even more lost. What is my company's Mr. Kennedy coming up? Actually, before you came for the meeting, I received an email from Mr. Kennedy. That happened. I had no idea. That email was full of slander against you. What kinds of things did it say? Do you really want to know? I don't think it'll be pleasant to hear. Please tell me. All right. I don't really want to say it out loud, so I'll show you directly. Miss Hanson opened the laptop next to her and showed me the email she said was from Director Kennedy. It maintained blatant hostility toward me. It was full of nothing but attempts to undermine me, no matter how much closing this deal would raise my status. I never thought he'd go this far. At the same time, I realized he must be absolutely furious to do something like this. If he were calm, he wouldn't pull such a risky stunt that could jeopardize his own position if found out. Doing this suggests he's lost the ability to judge rationally. My anger gave way to a loss of strength at the sheer idiocy of it. What came through overwhelmingly from this message was a strong determination to prevent me from getting credit, no matter what. In a greedy ego wanting to claim that credit for himself pervaded every corner of the text. It even felt grotesque. Particularly notable was how he persistently pressured Miss Hanson using various wordings that the deal couldn't be entrusted to me, so she should rethink it right away and make him the representative. In any case, it was clear he had sent this obstructive email out of malice, displeased by the idea of me getting credit. Thank you for showing me this. Was sent before you arrived. It's a bit unbelievable, isn't it? It is. I knew I was disliked, but having ill will exposed to this degree is disgusting. Mr. Johnson, you have every right to be angrier. This is unacceptable. Maybe so. Maybe I should be angrier. But I still haven't shaken the misunderstanding that your anger was directed at me. I'm truly sorry about that. Then I'll be mad on your behalf. I apologize for my boss pulling such an outrageous stunt. You have absolutely nothing to apologize for. You saved my life. Of course I'd get angry if the person who did that was spoken about this way. Thank you for getting so angry for my sake. Do you know the phone number of the person who sent the email? Please tell me. Don't tell me you're going to call him directly. Of course I am. I won't be satisfied otherwise. Taken aback by her intensity, I quickly took out my phone, looked up Director Kennedy's cell number, and handed it to Miss Hanson. She then took out her own phone and swiftly dialed the number. Miss Hanson put it on speaker so Director Kennedy's voice could be heard. Hello, who is this? Hello. Thank you for your email this morning. Ah, so you saw it. You understand now, right, how terrible the situation is. Yes, I truly understand how rotten you are to the core. Kennedy continued speaking excitedly, as if feeling victorious. Eric is utterly incapable and pathetic. What the heck are you saying? I'm very sorry. Sorry, the connection must be bad. I couldn't hear you well. Never mind that. Don't worry about it. Since you called, am I correct in assuming you're fine with me being the representative? I've changed my mind. The $20 million deal is off after all. What do you mean? Don't tell me Eric screwed something up. I'll take appropriate measures. So about the deal, I'm canceling the deal because you're extremely unpleasant. You and Mr. Johnson are worlds apart in character. Don't lump yourselves together. I'm sorry. The connection seems bad again. Could you repeat that? I'm saying it's the lowest of the low to badmouth someone behind their back and try to undermine them like you're doing. Wait a minute. I was thinking of what's best for you. Please don't give me that for your sake nonsense. It gives me goosebumps. In any case, you are too offensive, so the deal is over." Having said her piece, Miss Hanson hung up while Director Kennedy was still talking. "I finally feel a little better now." Miss Hanson smiled pleasantly as she said that. It felt amazing to hear Miss Hanson tell off Kennedy. As I listened to Kennedy's voice, my emotions gradually returned, and I got angry. But I felt relieved that Miss Hanson had thoroughly chewed him out. That said, the deal was undoubtedly off because of Kennedy. I sincerely apologize for my company's director causing you distress. I hated apologizing deeply for someone like him, but I had no choice since he had caused trouble as a member of the company. Then I went to excuse myself and leave. Wait a minute. You have no reason whatsoever to apologize. No, but someone from my company inconvenienced you, so I have to apologize. I understand. I accept your apology, but I still want to discuss the deal with you. Really? Yes. From the moment I heard about you, I thought you had a wonderful character. Oh, that's right. The representative at our client company told you about me? Exactly. When you get down to it, I feel MSRs tend to get caught up in profits. I can't deny that. But you seem to care about not only the client companies, but also the patients who are the end users of the medicines. Yes. If we forget the patients, it starts to feel like we're just chasing profits. That's what I think is so great about you, Mr. Johnson. That's why I proposed this deal. Being praised so frankly, I was at a loss for how to respond. At the same time, I felt that sticking to my convictions had been the right thing to do. Silence flowed between us for a while. Then Miss Hanson spoke. "Why did you help me at that time? When someone collapses in front of me, I'll try to help no matter who they are. That's my belief. You've held that belief for a long time, haven't you?" "I have." "Do you mind if I share something personal?" "Please, go ahead." "I had a very close friend. At least I thought of him as my best friend. That friend had been undergoing treatment for a serious illness for a long time, but he passed away because the medicine development didn't make it in time. Ever since then, I've been working as an MSR at a pharmaceutical company with the sole desire to somehow help people suffering before my eyes. So when you collapsed in front of me, Miss Hanson, helping was the only option in my mind. That's why. Thank you for sharing that. It makes me want to work with you even more. Sorry for going on so long." "Not at all. By the way, not to brag, but I'm the director's daughter at this hospital. I've earned a lot of trust, and now I have considerable authority. This isn't a suggestion, but a request. Would you please agree to a $60 million deal?" I sealed a $60 million deal with Miss Hanson. My reputation at the company skyrocketed in no time. Of course it did. I had always been nearly dead last in sales, but now I had landed an incredible contract. As for what happened to Director Kennedy, I showed the email sent to Miss Hanson to my company's CO as evidence. He was fired in the blink of an eye. It goes to show that people who try to undermine others behind their backs end up falling for themselves. I hear he can barely afford to eat these days. That's karma. After securing the $60 million deal, word of my character spread far and wide. Now I'm considered one of the most important people at the company. Miss Hanson and I started seeing each other in private, and now we're boyfriend and girlfriend. One time when Miss Hanson and I were having dinner out, we ran into my cousin by chance. We bumped into each other right as my cousin and someone who seemed to be her boyfriend were coming out of a high-end Italian restaurant. My cousin looked back and forth between my face and Miss Hanson's for a while, then said, Feeling a bit awkward, I blurted out, "What's with that? Don't stare so hard." Miss Hanson had a puzzled look, asking, "Who is this woman?" So I hardly introduced her as my cousin. My cousin muttered that she didn't want to intrude. "Oh, but hang on," she said, and asked Miss Hanson a question. "Don't you think he's unbelievably nice?" "Almost shockingly so." "That's what I love about him. I truly respect him from the bottom of my heart. Seeing Miss Hanson state that to my cousin without any embarrassment, I made a firm vow in my heart to always protect her from now on. You really have the nerve to show up with that face, huh? A former classmate is being ridiculed. Seeing her remaining silent and about to cry, I felt a surge of anger. Cut it out, will you? I'd immediately stepped in to defend my former classmate. When she looked up to face me, my heart skipped a beat. What's the matter? A farmer from the countryside trying to act cool or something. Now it was my turn to be mocked for being a farmer. She hasn't grown up a bit since high school. Thinking that, I smiled and patted my former classmate on the shoulder. Do you know who she really is? Right after, the tables turned dramatically due to the actions of my former classmate. I am Matthew Smith, a single man running a farm in a regional city. Our family has a long history of farming dating back to my great-grandfather's generation. Thus, we're quite large-scale and have a fair number of employees. Matthew, it's time to go harvest. Got it. Having helped with the family farming business since I was young, I've always taken pride in being a farmer. After graduating high school, I chose not to go to college and instead helped with the family business. Farming is complex. Listen, Matthew, farming is a battle against many elements. If you let your guard down even a little, you won't get good vegetables. The more effort we put in, the more the vegetables will respond. I was repeatedly taught the essence of farming by my grandparents and parents. Subject to the whims of weather and climate, any negligence would prevent the crops from growing well. It's a tough job, but it's genuinely rewarding to produce delicious vegetables. I want to incorporate various technologies for my generation. Our field is yours to do as you please now. That's right. Do it your way. I've put effort into modern agriculture, venturing into rare and challenging to grow vegetables. Thanks to this, our family is well known in the area. Matthew, someone came looking for that new vegetable you've been growing. Thank you, Michael. The person who called out to me is Michael Jones. He's one of the key supporters of our farm along with his wife. His wife is currently pregnant and on maternity leave. However, she sometimes shows up to help out without overexerting herself, for which I'm truly grateful. Well, I'm going to check on the veggies. Yes, please do. He's knowledgeable about rare vegetables and supports my ideas, helping to grow them together. That's why I can trust him with the work confidently. Matthew, I'll head to the field with the interns first. Thanks, I appreciate it. The next person to speak to me was Jacob Miller. He just graduated from college and started working in our fields. He is multilingual and has been leading the foreign agricultural training program we recently introduced. His kind nature has made him popular among the interns. All right, time for me to get to work too. With the help of many, I've been making delicious vegetables. I've been spending each day taking care of my vegetables when... Matthew, you've got a letter. Thanks. The letter was to inform me about a high school reunion. It seems that they are organizing a reunion for my grade from our high school. The venue this time is in New York. Usually, it would be held in our hometown, but many classmates had moved to New York for college and ended up working there. So it looks like it's going to be held in New York this time. I wonder if I'll see her in New York. The person that comes to mind is someone special to me, a classmate named Emily Williams. Maybe I'll get to see her since she had gone to New York. With that thought, I decided to make arrangements to attend. Emily, I need your help again today. Emily was known to be beautiful back in high school. However, she always looked down because of a large scar on her face. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. You're always such a big help, Matthew. You're always busy helping out at home, aren't you? I was interested in her. Emily was smart, so I made up the excuse of wanting her to check my homework to talk to her, and eventually, we became friends. You really have a way of teaching, Emily. Thank you. You're kind, Matthew. You think so? I think you're the kind one. The reason I started to take an interest in Emily was because of the presence of other classmates like Sarah Brown and her group. Matthew's family is a bunch of farmers. That's probably why he smells like soil. He's probably covered in mud every day. Because of my family farm, I was always ridiculed by Sarah and her flashy, popular group. To them, I would retort, "So what if we're farmers? It's because of farmers that you get to eat vegetables. Have you done anything significant enough to mock others?" I took pride in our farm, so I always fought back. Sarah and her group would laugh it off, saying, "It's just the truth." I suppose they found my constant comebacks somewhat annoying. Eventually, we became like cats and dogs. Interestingly, it was only them who ridiculed me. Other classmates didn't mock me. "Sarah is annoying you again, huh?" They're annoying, always bragging or putting others down. In fact, they distanced themselves from Sarah's group. "Emily, with that scar on your face, I'm surprised you can come to school. If it were me, I'd be too embarrassed to show my face." They also ridiculed Emily for her appearance. Emily responded differently from me towards them. She just silently endured it. Being a woman and having such a scar. "Emily, there's something I don't understand of the homework. Could you help me?" I just couldn't leave her alone, so I started talking to Emily and made sure I was there for her. In doing so, I was able to protect her from Sarah and her group, albeit slightly. "What are you going to do after high school, Matthew?" "I'm not going to college. I plan to focus on farming. I have various things I want to do, and while my grandparents are still healthy, I want to get their opinions. What about you, Emily?" "I'm planning to go to a university in New York." Since then, I haven't seen Emily, who went off to university in New York. However, I occasionally heard rumors about her. Emily is working hard, so I should too. Every time I hear about her, it inspires me to do my best. Emily's existence supports me even to this day. I would really like to see her. She must have become more mature and even more beautiful than before. Maybe she doesn't remember much about me. Still, I wanted to see Emily as she is now. Deciding to attend the reunion, I told my parents I'd be away from home for a while. "Is that so? We'll be looking forward to the souvenir. And maybe you'll find a potential wife while you're at it." "What are you talking about, Dad?" As I retorted to my dad's words, Emily was still crossing my mind. I never really had a girlfriend through high school, and I hadn't met anyone special since graduating. To me, Emily was still a significant figure, perhaps even idealized in my memory. That's why I wanted to see her again. Typical New York with so many tall buildings. Arriving in New York, I was immediately overwhelmed by the sheer number and height of the buildings, but that feeling was short-lived. It feels so fresh here. I'm glad I came. My excitement rose quickly in the city, which I hadn't visited for a long time. I spent the day dropping off my luggage at the hotel I had booked in advance and wandering around, buying unique city-only souvenirs. After thoroughly enjoying myself, I decided to rest early to prepare for the reunion the next day. So, this is the venue for the reunion. New York hotels are indeed stylish. The reunion was held in a hotel banquet hall. Stepping in with a bit of nervous excitement, I started to see familiar faces. "Hey, it's Matthew. Wow, it's really you. It's been so long. Long time no see, you guys." My friends quickly recognized me and greeted me warmly. In response, I smiled back at them. We slapped each other's shoulders as we used to. "Well, it's been such a long time, and still that awful scar." Then, from the back, we heard an unnecessarily loud voice. Turning our gaze, we saw a group dressed in flashy attire. Ah, that's Sarah and her crew, unchanged in the worst way. They've been bringing up something, but now it seems they'd found someone to bother. It appears Sarah was among them. Our friends looked on with annoyance. Feeling uneasy, I approached the group, and it seemed they were causing a commotion. Really, how persistent can you be? That was Sarah, laughing and pressing against someone. It was Emily. Are you even listening? I'm talking to you. You hadn't changed at all. And to think you'd show up looking like that. Emily, just like in high school, was looking down, alone, holding back tears. Even at this age, they're still bullying like high schoolers. Feeling that surge of anger, I raced over to them. Cut it out, will you? As I did, I shielded Emily behind me. Wait, is that you, Matthew? Emily said, surprised, looking up at me. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but feel a jolt of emotion. It's been a while, I managed to say, finding myself at a loss for words in front of her, who had become even more beautiful than she was back in high school. The scar was still there, yes, but it was hardly noticeable, maybe because of her makeup. Even though I had stepped in to protect her, I found myself frozen, overcome by nervousness. What's this? The country farmer thinks he's some kind of hero. That mocking tone from Sarah was what finally got me going. Looking at her, I retorted, I've always said, what's wrong with farming? You all eat vegetables, don't you? I shifted my focus from Emily and coldly retorted, I objected coldly. These people really haven't changed. Looking at Sarah with a mix of astonishment and disdain, I thought about how childish it was of her to still engage in such petty harassment. At that moment, something occurred to me. Does Sarah even know about Emily's current situation? Is she aware and still choosing to harass her this way? No, that can't be. If she knew, she wouldn't be acting like this. Thinking this, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of what's about to unfold because of Sarah's actions. What are you smiling about? Do you know who she really is? I said this while putting my arm around Emily's shoulder, facing Sarah. Sarah looked puzzled at first, but her expression quickly shifted back to one of disdain. What can she possibly be with that face? Let me guess, some low-level worker at some company, right? Even if she got the job out of pity because of her scar, it's nothing to brag about. She continued to look down on us. So you really don't know anything, huh? My smile widened. You see, she's a CEO. She's far more successful than you could ever hope to be. A CEO? No way. I can't believe it. Sarah scoffed at my words. Apparently, she doesn't listen to my words. Thank you, Matthew. Emily then stepped forward and pulled out a business card, offering it to Sarah. I apologize for the late introduction. I'm Emily Williams, the CEO of my company. The business card displayed her title as CEO and her name, Emily Williams. Do you ever talk back, Emily? Me having a scar is true after all, she said. Back in high school, Emily was always self-conscious about the scar on her face and tended to keep to herself. Sarah and her group often mocked her for that scar, and I was always concerned about it. I don't think it's something you should care so much about. I tried to reassure her, making an effort to engage her in conversation. That's how we started talking more, just the two of us. I can feel confident about myself because of this scar, Emily told me one day. At her words, I couldn't help but tilt my head in confusion. Is having a scar really that bad? She responded, her eyes widening in surprise at my question. I've always wondered something while farming. Hey, why can't this be shipped? It's because it has a scar, was the answer. Scarred vegetables can't be shipped out. If they aren't perfect and unblemished, the agricultural cooperative won't accept them. Similarly, vegetables that don't meet the standard criteria are also rejected. But these taste just as good. In reality, the flavor of pretty vegetables, scarred vegetables, and non-standard vegetables is equally delicious. In fact, some scarred vegetables taste even better. I understand what you're saying, Matthew. My grandmother used to say vegetables with scars often become tastier, as if making up for their flaws, she would explain, always cooking the unsellable vegetables for us at home. I shared this with Emily. Whether you have a scar or not doesn't change who you are. It's all about what's inside that counts. Having scars means you've experienced pain, and that can make you grow into a better person. I encouraged Emily. Hearing my words seemed to lift the weight off her shoulders, and from that day on, she no longer hung her head. Sometime later, I heard the story behind this scar from my mom. Emily shared with me quietly. It turned out she was attacked by a neighbor's dog when she was just a child. A large dog had escaped and went after Emily while she was out with her family. Her pregnant mother was there, and Emily, even as a child, had tried to protect her mother and the unborn sibling. My dad was a bit further away, but managed to chase the dog off quickly, so fortunately, it didn't get worse, she explained. So it's like a medal of honor then, I responded. Yes, it's my medal for protecting my mom and sibling. I'm not ashamed of it anymore, she said with the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. After that, Emily became even more dedicated to her studies. Matthew, I got accepted into a university in New York, Emily shared with me one day. That's amazing. I knew you could do it, Emily. She continued to maintain top grades in her class and entered the famous university. In college, she studied business administration and, after graduating, started her own company. Her business model involved buying unsellable fruits and vegetables directly from farmers and selling them directly to customers. Currently, she sells primarily in the metropolitan area, sourcing from nearby regions. Most of her customers are from the city, but the freshness, taste, and the lower prices due to the products being damaged or non-standard have also made her online sales popular. Thanks to that, I'm gradually gaining fans nationwide, Emily said, her demeanor much more confident than before. Seeing her like this made me feel a bit proud. I had known about Emily's company through our connection in agriculture and had been cheering for her from afar. I had been looking forward to seeing her after so long, but I couldn't stand by and watch Sarah mock her like in the old days. I'm sorry, Emily, for spilling the beans about your work. I just couldn't keep quiet, I apologized. It's okay. Thank you. Actually, your defense helped me find the courage to stand up for myself. After impulsively revealing Emily's profession, I felt a bit of regret. However, she no longer had the tearful look from before. She was looking forward, her eyes full of determination. Actually, I buy vegetables from here too, Sarah murmured in shock after looking at the business card Emily had given her. Her entourage leaned in to take a peek at the card and then exclaimed in surprise, recognizing the company name. Oh, that company. Well, it's well known, isn't it? It seemed her classmates were familiar with the company too, and they began to make a fuss over Emily. She smiled back at them, standing firm and looking straight ahead. Thank you for your patronage, she said. At those words, Sarah turned pale and was at a loss for words. Her followers, feeling awkward, started to drift away from her. I'll be taking my leave now. Unable to bear the stares from those around her, Sarah eventually left the venue. As Sarah left, our classmates started to applaud Emily, who gave a slightly embarrassed but lovely smile. You've become quite the celebrity, I noted as a crowd gathered around Emily, making it impossible for me to get close. I smiled bitterly and watched the scene from a distance. Emily is now talked to by everyone, unlike back then. Feeling a mix of happiness and a bit of loneliness, Emily broke away from the group and came over to me. Thanks for helping me out there, she said with shy gratitude, looking as beautiful as ever. Don't mention it. But should you be talking to me? Everyone seems to want to talk to you. It's fine. I want to talk to you, she insisted, making me fight back a grin of happiness. Because of you, I don't worry about my scar anymore, Emily said, gently touching her scar. But when Sarah started mocking me, I couldn't help but freeze up, remembering the past. Because you helped me, Just like in high school, I was able to stand up to her. I was really happy. My help? I asked, surprised by her words. Emily smiled. Vegetables with scars taste better, right? I decided to compete based on what's inside, which motivated me to study hard, and thanks to that, I became a CEO. I was captivated by her smiling face. I never imagined my words would change Emily's mindset. Thank you, Matthew, she said, making me feel unexpectedly pleased. Oh, Matthew, actually, I have something work-related to discuss. Could we meet later? So we agreed to meet after the reunion. I was planning to return to my hometown the next afternoon, so we met in the morning at a cafe she had chosen. I want to make a contract with your farm, she revealed. She offered me a deal. We've only been dealing with farms in the capital area so far, but we're planning to expand nationwide. So please let us handle your vegetables too. Emily bowed her head to me, expressing her gratitude. Well, I thought it wasn't necessary to go that far. I nodded with a smile. I'm looking forward to working together. Me too. I'm looking forward to our partnership. I gladly accepted her request, and Emily and I became business partners. I fulfilled a dream, she chuckled. Huh. I've always dreamed of handling your farm's vegetables, she mentioned. The idea to start her business was inspired by me. After tasting our vegetables, she was determined to include them in her business. But your vegetables are so well known. Al. I thought it would be disrespectful to approach you with my small startup. That's why I worked hard to grow my company to a level you'd hear about. Her dedication impressed me, and to think she valued our vegetables that much. I'm glad to hear you say that. It's beneficial for us too, not having to discard good vegetables, and it's great that more people get to enjoy them. Yes, I'd want everyone to taste the vegetables from your farm. After returning home, I quickly told Michael about signing a contract with Emily's company. That's amazing. Her company was even featured on TV the other day. He responded, clearly pleased. This reassurance made me feel confident about the decision to partner with her. Matthew, there's something else I need to discuss, even though it might overlap with the contract topic. Michael then brought up a new subject. It turns out a local school had approached us about the possibility of hosting some experiential learning sessions. Jacob was particularly excited about this opportunity. How do you feel about Jacob handling this, Michael? I asked. I think he's more than capable, he replied, offering a supportive smile that felt like a nudge in the right direction. Let's leave the school matter to Jacob then. Michael, could you support him in this? Of course, he agreed. Looks like we're going to be busy, I said to Michael, feeling genuinely excited about what lay ahead. After some time passed, Matthew, Emily, you came to visit again today. Emily frequently visited our farm, combining her visits with trips back home. It seems quite lively today. Actually, today we have kids from the local school here for a field trip. That's wonderful, she said, turning her gaze towards the field. There, the neighborhood children were harvesting vegetables with bright, sparkling eyes. It was heartwarming watching them interact with Jacob and the interns with smiles. This farm is special. The vegetables here bring smiles to many people. I always feel like I want to stay here forever. Hearing those words, I couldn't help but look at Emily's face. As we've seen each other more and more, our relationship has grown closer, and now, perhaps it's the right time to express my feelings to her. Emily, would you go out with me? I asked her. This time she looked at me and said, I have a scar on my face. To me, that doesn't matter at all. Even with a scar on your face, your heart is beautiful, I reassured her. Hearing my words, she nodded with a radiant smile, and so we began dating and eventually decided to get married. What about your job in New York? I inquired. We're in the age of remote work now, she replied. She married into my family and continued her role as a CEO from our home. Is work going okay? I asked. Yes, no problem at all. In fact, I did more here in this quiet environment than I did in New York, she assured me. My parents welcomed Emily warmly. We're so happy to have a beauty like you join our family, they said. Really? We were worried Matthew might never get married, but we're truly grateful that someone as beautiful as you has married him. No one dared to mention the scar on her face. It seemed that everyone appreciated her for who she was, not her appearance. With my face, the scar doesn't matter at all. Matthew fell in love with you for who you are. You must be an incredible person, my grandmother told her. She and Emily had become very close, often seen chatting together. Everyone here is just like you, wonderful people. Exactly. Everyone knows that even if they have scars, it's what's inside that counts, I said, and Emily smiled brightly in response. We were blessed by many at our wedding. We invited all our classmates except for one person, Sarah, of course. I heard a rumor that Sarah got divorced. Apparently, Sarah had married a wealthy man and bragged about it, but her husband's company had dealings with Emily's company. Through that connection, he found out about the situation, leading to a big fight and their divorce. It seems they had a child, but the husband took custody. Sarah used her child as a trophy but lacked affection for that child. Thus, even her child grew distant, leaving her to lead a lonely life now. I heard she's desperately trying to earn child support. Apparently, Sarah spends her days working various jobs, insisting she do anything but farming. That's unfortunate. I'd consider hiring her if she genuinely humbled herself, but that's unlikely with her pride. It also seems that her former friends tried to fit in elsewhere, but faced rejection. Well, she reaped what she sowed. She should have cultivated her inner self instead of mocking others' appearances. I muttered, choosing to focus on my wedding. Matthew, is there anything I can help with? I'd love your help, but what about your work? It's fine. I've just finished a task, and I could use physical activity as a break. Emily helps out with the farming in between her work. Thanks to her, we've significantly reduced waste in our produce. As a result, our income has been steadily increasing. Also, thanks to her, my unique vegetables can now reach customers nationwide. By the way, Michael's wife said she wanted to thank you. Thank me. She said her child loved the weaning food she made with the vegetables you grew. Emily beamed happily at my words. Michael's child was born healthy and is now happily keeping Michael and his wife busy. We should hang out with them again soon. Sure, we should. Jacob has gained confidence from leading the recent field trip and has become more proactive. He's currently abroad, sharing agricultural knowledge in the interns' home countries. We can't be outdone by them. Today, we're both out in the field, sweating under the sun. A year later, we were blessed with a lovely son. Now, the three of us spend our days in the field. I wonder if he'll want to farm like us one day. Who knows? He might even say he wants to be a CEO someday. We discussed our child's future with smiles on our faces, looking forward to what lies ahead. However, we're determined to teach him to value people's inner qualities over their appearances. Our farm is a place where people of all races come together. We want him to be exposed to such diversity and learn to see the worth in everyone. With that thought, I gently stroked Aaron's head.